Hello, YouTube. Hope everybody's having a wonderful 4th of July weekend, preparing for it. It is Friday the 2nd. This day in history was actually the middle of the Battle of Gettysburg. Crazy, huh? Has nothing to do with the Revolutionary War and our enduring freedoms, but it's still a day of history and useless knowledge passed on from me to you. So, what I want to talk about today, I talked about this, the Bill Cosby release some yesterday, and I read the case from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. It's like 79 pages, I think, right? Yeah, 79 pages, and it's a humdinger. Let me tell you, it can. I mean, you don't even have to write a movie script, this is your own lifetime miniseries right here. All right. So anyway, I didn't realize what all had happened, what all was the details of this and everything, and it just always seemed fishy to me. It came out during the Me Too movement, which I think is I don't know, it was like a hashtagged witch hunt for a lot of stuff. Do you notice how many people were victims during then that you never heard of again? It's like when they had to start answering for say, "Oh, me too, I'm a victim. Me too, I'm a victim." All of a sudden, you couldn't find them. So anyway, this is so Bill Cosby got convicted of was it rape? I don't even know the official charge. It was sexual assault. What I keep reading. This is how little I care about it. Because like I said, it just seems odd. It just, just sometimes you just go, that just doesn't seem right. Whoops. Oh man, that has an awful sound. I've got to do something about my mic stand. That's the latest thing I hate. But anyway, let's ignore that and let's get through this because this is going to be a long one. I'm going to try to make this fast, funny, delicious, and get out here and get back into patriotism of how awesome America is and kicks ass and all other stuff. So, okay. Those of you who don't know, Bill Cosby was just absolutely released from jail Wednesday. This is Friday. So he walked out, peace sign up in the air, wearing some board shorts and some flip-flops, and he said, "Hey, Charlie don't surf. Let's hit the beach." Anyway, the Supreme Court had ruled in his favor on this case. And what had happened, I didn't realize all the details of it. And there are so many facts. I could get taken away with the facts. I could get taken away with the opinions. I could get taken away with all this stuff. But there's a couple of things that I picked up on that I didn't see other YouTubers mention. I want to start to go over those. So, let's see here. So 16 pages in. It's the first time I kind of made some notes here. Now what happened is this the original district attorney, Bruce Castor. This was in like 2004. He said, "Hey, we don't have a case here. We can't prosecute Bill Cosby because the accuser, Andrea Constant," which I'm going to get to her here in a second. So anyway, she was a little cuckoo, maybe. It's kind of like, he didn't go, he just said she was inconsistent and whatnot. So her inconsistency included that she met up with Cosby like 3 times. And, I don't know a funny way to put it, man. They just got it on. And anyway, Bill's like, she started calling him afterwards and saying, "Oh, I don't know. I don't feel right about the other night." And Bill's like, "Well, hey, baby, it's okay. Listen, how about we talk about this face to face? You come on down here. I'll have my assistant call you." Assistant calls, says, "Hey, let's go. He's doing a show in Miami. Why don't you fly down and meet him? Your mom can come." Mom's involved in all this, which is really weird. Okay, like, you shouldn't talk to your parents about sex. That's just weird. I mean, I guess I don't know. It's just like, see, it just bothers me, and you don't want to bring them into this whole thing. It's a, I don't know. It's a weird deal here. Hey, my Labrador needs out of the room. Hang on a second here. So she, there you go, bud. Walk. Y'all gotta love me. Life happens as it happens, and that is a Labrador puppy. So if you've ever been around one, you know how they are. Their life is happening right now, and everybody has to stop and pay attention to it. Anyway, so this Andrew chick, it's just one of those, like, mom's always involved, and he just, whenever, it's like the Hollywood mom types. Those always bother me. It's like, I don't know, they're just weird. So Bruce Castor says there's not enough stuff here to get a successful conviction. But what he does say is, what you might do. Now, this is the district attorney. This guy works for the people, okay? I have a problem with Brucey Poo here. You shouldn't. He's still supposed to take Cosby as being innocent, right? I mean, you shouldn't work against the people, and you shouldn't have a meeting of the mind, so to speak, to I don't know, plan out a legal path for a different type of justice. So anyway, Bruce Castor meets with her and says, "Hey, listen, we don't really have much to go on here for a criminal." And that should have been it. I mean, I'm sorry, but sometimes you got to tell somebody that their story just doesn't add up. So he didn't. And he said, "Well, listen, here's what I'll do. I'll tell Cosby. I'll get him in here, and we'll see if we can get him to work with us on something else." It's all very weird. It's all weird. Here, let me read. This is his letter. So he found out after all this happened, he left office. 10 years later, he leaves office. Okay, the new DA comes in and decides to open this case up because it never went to trial. I mean, if it doesn't go to trial, there's nothing to do. She filed the case. There's a 12-year statute of limitations on this, which I think is weird. Is the 12-year mark. I've never seen a statute of limitation with such a. It's usually like 5 years, 10 years, something like that. But which you expect 5s and 10s and 15s, and you don't expect 12. So anyway, it has a 12-year statute of limitations, and she filed it right before statute of limitations is over. Which that's just something else that bothers me. It's like you had to wait till right now. Anyway, of course, had to wait till right now because the timing was right. So Risa is her. Risa Furman is the new DA, and so Bruce here writes a letter to Risa because he finds out about on the news. Like that night, he fires off this letter. And he's like, he goes, once we decided that the chances of prevailing in the criminal case were too remote to make an arrest, I concluded the best way to achieve justice was to create an atmosphere where Constant, that's the victim, would have the best chance of prevailing in a civil suit against Cosby. Now listen to that. I concluded the best way to achieve justice is for her to prevail in a civil suit. With the agreement of Constant's attorneys, I wrote the attached as the only comment I would make while the civil case was pending. And that's what he did, too. Evidently, he did a press conference and said that there'll be a civil case. He even went so far as to say that California may file criminal charges against Cosby. I mean, he's out there actively fishing. She's shopping venues, what he's doing. Imagine if it was a doctor, you're doing doctor shopping. Well, that's what he's doing. Okay, but it's okay. As long as it's against the little guy, it's okay. See here. was the only comment I made about the again, with the agreement of the defense lawyers, I intentionally and specifically bound the Commonwealth that there would be no state prosecution of Cosby in order to remove him the ability to claim his Fifth Amendment protection against self-incrimination that was forcing him to sit for a deposition under oath. So what he's saying is that the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth, it's they're not states, they're commonwealths. These, what is it, 13 of them? They cannot go after him in the future. And that's his word. He is a official state. He represents the state, and he represents the people, which represents the state. It's, it's the whole litany of governmental, the idea behind how government should work and be built is on his word. So he's reestablishing that word right here. So let's go down here. They thought making him testify. This is all about getting him to testify in the depositions. And evidently, Cosby in the depositions, he said stuff that was self-incriminating. So, but he's like, I've got, he gave up his Fifth Amendment right. His whole time he could have said, no, I take the Fifth, I can't say anything here. I'm not going to incriminate myself, because, I've got, this is criminal stuff we're talking about, even though you're suing me civilly. Let's see here. They thought him to testify, solidify the civil case, but the only way to do that was for the Commonwealth to promise not to prosecute him. So, in fact, that is what I did. And you know what she got out of this? Look at this over here. Let's see. I wrote this. I didn't see this later. $3.38 million. That's $1 million at the time they slept together, I think. That is unbelievable. I mean, her attorney has got to, that guy just had to love life. He's like, he didn't have to do hardly anything. So he figured on $1 million, he probably got, say, a third. So he got $1.1 million. He walked away $250,000, maybe, for, gosh, less than a year's work, hopefully, for him. I don't know. So, people think that the lawyers get paid a lot. Dude, okay, they have to pay taxes. They have to pay overhead. They have to pay all that stuff. They have to pay insurance. So, we're not going to be picking on attorneys anymore. Let's see here. Knowing the above, I can see no possibility that Cosby's deposition could be used in a state criminal case. Now, this is opinion to Rita here. Because I would have to testify as to what happened, and that deposition would be subject to suppression. I cannot believe any state judge would allow that deposition into evidence, nor anything derived therefrom. In fact, that was the specific intent of all parties involved, including the Commonwealth and the plaintiff's lawyers. Okay, so he is saying now that Constant also agreed. That was her intent, was to not go after criminal. His intent is not to go after criminal. And that if he does any of this stuff, it would have to be suppressed. Yeah, all of the evidence, anything that let's see, criminal vision. Yeah, that's right. So I'm sorry, I was getting my timeline a little messed up. So her deposition from the civil case, it's out there. All right. Now, post that, and usually it's is when you have the criminal case. So post that is you're having the criminal case. The criminal case you're trying to bring up, say, Cosby said all this stuff. And they're going to say, no, you can't bring that up, blah, blah. Let's see here. This is why I did this in Reddit. It was very important here. I publicly suggested that the DA in California, this is what I was talking about earlier, might try to do a common plan, scheme, or design case using Constant's case as part of the res gestia in their case. And I can't pronounce Latin at all. Yeah, I know. I went to law school, and I can't do it. So usually when I see a Latin word, I just crank up my redneck accent a little bit. and that'd be like res gestia in their case. Now, what that means, res gestia, I should have had it pulled up so the computer could say it. It's trying to bring in evidence. All this is with the rules of evidence. And the rules of evidence, real quick, in case you don't know, they're kind of like common law courtroom procedure rules, okay? The courts, they come up with, every court has their own rules of evidence, or not evidence, but rules of procedure. Because you got procedure, you got criminal, you got civil, you've got, I'm sure there's probably, I don't know, traffic ticket procedure. It just depends. Courts are very, very confusing. That's why attorneys practice in one area, because when they get good at something, the guy who does criminal defense doesn't start doing the Bill and Melinda Gates divorce, which that would be the one divorce to take on, man. That'd be so sweet. Anyway, I'm trying to think. It's bringing in evidence, that even though this is a state document, which could be entered into evidence as without being hearsay. It's trying to enter hearsay evidence in without it being hearsay. See, it's complicated. I don't know. I'd have to. I was going over it before this, and I was trying to read it. I was like, okay, I think I have a good way of explaining it, and obviously I don't. So it has to do with the rules of evidence, and you can use it sometimes, depending on the circumstances. But even then, as we'll see later on, is like, I think, like, when I say you'll see later on, it won't be in this case. I apologize. Even then, though, you'll see that it doesn't always work. It's again, it's a legal theory. I'll tell you what, the best, all this stuff, the best lawyers are on TV. All right, so if that's how you're trying to take your thought of what courtrooms are like and everything else, I assure you it is nothing like that. But yeah, it's just a legal principle there under the rules of evidence. I'm sure someone else can chime in and do a perfect explanation. I'm not good. I do have my degree. I do have my degree. All right, let's see here. I'm trying to see what's the. I've got. Let's see, I do a. All right, here we go. Let's see here. So I skipped on down here because all this is just this really brought all the facts of the case back up. They brought every fact back. I mean, just if you want to do a script on the Cosby trial, just get this case, and they've got everything already laid out for you. So this is the Supreme Court. They're talking. It's like, this is why this is wrong. This is why we don't do this. This is how we do it in Pennsylvania, and you screwed it all up. Let's see here. Prosecutor can choose. Okay, so there's some stuff here. I want to go back. I kind of enjoyed this, but I didn't know if I should put it in or not. Let's see here. Of course, you have prosecutorial discretion, which is whether or not we're going to prosecute. Which in this case decide not to prosecute. Regard to charging decisions invites a due process challenge. That's the big thing. See, okay, so Bill Cosby's due process rights were completely stomped on. Didn't even have a chance to bring him up because of the way they did this case. They set it up for the civil case. His civil case. I mean, he would not have had to admit to anything if he didn't have a looming. If he wasn't trying to. If he hadn't made a deal to not be prosecuted. Now think about that. So the whole thing, the government set him up. Okay, I mean, think about that. That is just it's un-American. It just really is un-American. And if I'm not defending someone. If you think he's a sexual assaulter, rapist, whatever, that's fine. I'm not defending any actions like that, and this ultimately is down to him and her. And even then, nowadays, I mean, it's so different from when this happened to the way it is today. It's only a few short years in a timeline of existence. It's changed. I mean, they're going now. This is kind of like the case that's starting where you're seeing more and more, especially in the comic book industry side, which I mean, that's like the building block of so much of like what Hollywood is now and everything else. That you're seeing these people are saying, well, yeah, he sexually assaulted me. Oh, really? What happened? Well, we had sex 5 years ago. And it's like, well, how did he sexually assault you? It's like, well, looking back on it, I probably shouldn't have done that, and I didn't really want to be with him, I guess. And so you're having these people being prosecuted after the fact. It's a weird world. It's a weird clown world we're in. I'm getting distracted. I apologize. Back on this. So, let's see here. So this time on the due process, and going back, this I really like this. I should have focused on this more. So a prosecutor, so the prosecutor can choose not to prosecute the defendant at the present time. The may inform the defendant that the decision is not final. That's the other thing. So, okay, like when you go in and you plea bargain, think like on a plea bargain scenario. If the judge doesn't accept the plea bargain, then you don't get those swank terms that you came up with the prosecutor. Now, that rarely, I don't even know if that ever happens. I'm sure it has, but that's the judge's discretion ultimately. Now, the judge usually always does go with the plea bargain because the plea bargain itself is in the interest of justice for, again, the taxpayer. You're saving the costly trial and everything else, and you're getting a conviction, maybe not as much as you wanted on a conviction, but you're still getting a conviction. And let's put it like this, 1 day in jail is worse than the worst day you've ever had. Let's see, there may be, okay, so talking about on the prosecutor here, so there could be barriers to prosecution, things that stop them from being able to prosecute, such as, here goes, a witness or evidence, may be removed, and generally there's no, this is the kick to it, there's no due process arises from these species of discretionary decision making, and the defendant is without recourse to seek enforcement of any assurance under such circumstances. So if there's nothing that, it's out of the hands of the prosecutor though. It's like, oh, we can't find the evidence because it's been removed. Not breaking the chain of evidence, whatnot. It's just, or maybe the evidence came in later on, or waiting on it, whatever it is. That's something, an example of something that's out of the hands of the prosecutor, and it doesn't mean that the defendant in that instance gets an assurance that they won't be prosecuted. It's not their due process rights there. Their claim to their due process rights wouldn't happen at that moment. See, an entirely different situation arises, though, when the decision not to prosecute is unconditional, as we had here. I like doing these little draw things. Unconditional is presented as absolute and final, or is announced in such a way that it induces. Now, this is going to be important later on. It is announced in such a way that it induces the defendant to act in reliance thereupon. That's a key thing in the law, is that the detrimental reliance type scenario. It's did you rely on the things that the person said? When a prosecution decision is conveyed in such a way, and when a defendant, having no indication to the contrary, detrimentally relies upon that decision, due process may warrant preclusion of the prosecution. That is so key right there. Numerous state and federal courts have found that the defendant's detrimental reliance upon the government's assurance during the plea bargaining phase both implicates his due process rights and entitles him to enforcement even if unconsummated agreements and the cases are legion. I highlighted that because I thought it was pretty cool. The cases are legion. I didn't even realize I read that. I was talking about some of that stuff. Sorry. All right, I have to go back and look at the names here. That's why I just took my pause on. I'm sorry. When you talk about D.A. Castor's press release, that's why I read at the very beginning. Castor's the old district attorney. Does not necessarily create a due process entitlement. So you have to look at the total situation, the totality of the facts, and then decide, would a reasonable person reasonably rely on what they were told? Did they? And then, well, how do you prove they're a reasonable person? They act reasonably. I mean, I don't remember there ever being some kind of a test or something. I mean, you can prove that they're unreasonable easier than you can that they're reasonable. But you just assume that the normal person every day you run into is a reasonable person. If they know how to tie their shoes and zip up their fly, they're a reasonable person for the most part. Rather, the due process implications arise because Cosby detrimentally relied upon the Commonwealth's decision, which was the district attorney's ultimate intent in issuing the press release. So see, that's where the key is right here, is that he, doing this press release, was to get Bill Cosby to rely on this. And so he had a, he's like, okay, I've got all this stuff. I mean, I'm good. His attorney was sitting there with him. He's like, Bill, you're good. There is no evidence of record indicating that D.A. Castor intended anything other than to induce Cosby's reliance. Key thing there. The government actor is inducing reliance. Okay? Indeed, the most patent and obvious evidence of Cosby's reliance was its counseled decision, was his counseled, that's because his lawyer was sitting there, see? Decision to testify in 4 depositions in a constant civil case without ever invoking his Fifth Amendment rights. Now, 4 times he went up to this chick's case, did the depositions, and not one time did he ever say, I take the Fifth. I love this line. I knew it when I read this. I was going to have to. I was going to talk about it. The Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution, which is applicable to the states via a corporation through the 14th Amendment, commands. And then it reads it off. This was, I swear, this was written by a law clerk, because that is such a. That's how you would answer a law exam. It's like, yeah, Fifth Amendment rights. And then you go on. And then it's like, you get a ding on it. And you sit there and you go, I said Fifth Amendment rights. And you said, yeah, but you didn't say how it applied to the states. Well, it depends. Is the 14th Amendment legal? That's a whole different can of worms. Same thing with I think the 13th. And there's, there might be another amendment that there's a history of questionability on. Again, another conversation. Let's see here. Where else did I find stuff? So what we've got so far is that we're building up the point is that this DA, Bruce Castor, made Cosby rely on his words. Okay. Now, you see I've got different color highlights. Like I try to do, I was like yellow. I love yellow highlighter. I love it, man. I can't get enough of it. And so like yellow highlighter to me is like everything. And then I was like, well, let's try to do stuff so like I don't skip things. So I was like, I'll do blue. Blue's okay, as being more important. And then when you saw that red one, I was like, oh, that's the most important so far. Anyway, that's my little OCD off to the side moment there. Sorry, y'all. Not only did D.A. Castor's unconditional decision not to prosecute Cosby, strip Cosby of the fundamental constitutional right, but because he was forced to testify. Now, see, that's the whole key to it is, like, we won't prosecute you criminally if you will testify civilly. Doesn't that seem heavy-handed? I mean, it's like, you know what, they would not offer that to me because I'm not rich. So he's saying, if you look at it the other way, you take his words and you just turn them back to him, it's like, you're saying that, okay, I'll tell you exactly what he's saying. He's saying, all right, dude, you're rich. You're rich, pay the bitch. Oh, jeez. But because he was forced to testify, Cosby provided constant civil attorneys. And remind you, civil is not a state actor. With evidence of Cosby's past use of drugs to facilitate his sexual exploits. And he said he was just loosening them up. I'm not going to say anymore. Undoubtedly, this information hindered Cosby's ability to defend against the civil action and led to a settlement for a significant amount of money, $3.3 million. We are left with no doubt that Cosby relied on his detriment upon the district attorney's decision not to prosecute him. The question then becomes whether that reliance was reasonable. Unreasonable reliance warrants no legal remedy. So there you go. It's like, I went to the DA's and he said he wouldn't prosecute me if I did this. If I testified in the civil case. Well, how do you know the DA said he wouldn't prosecute you? Because he was eating a piece of Tony's sausage and pepperoni pizza. Well, where do you get that? Everybody knows that. Like, that's a big thing in my family. It's like, no, dude, like, that's the most unreasonable thing I've ever heard in my life. That warrants no legal remedy here. So we've already determined that Cosby, in fact, relied upon D.A. Kessler's decision. We now conclude that Cosby's reliance was reasonable. I think right here is what I wanted to add. Let's see here. It's also reasonable for Kessler to expect Cosby to so rely. Right. Let's see here. I know. I feel like somebody else read this. I'm reading somebody else's highlight stuff. I apologize. Not only was Cosby's reliance upon the conclusions and advice of his attorneys reasonable, it was consistent with the core purpose of the right to counsel. So see, that's they're saying here that it wasn't Bill Cosby did right, and Bill Cosby's attorney did right. That's kind of a double whammy there. Lawyers, I had somebody explain it to me like this before I went to law school. This person was like a doctor or something like that, a PhD in political science and government, something like that. You can tell I didn't pay attention what his degree was in. But anyway, a friend of mine, he said, going to law school is the best thing you do. He said, because it's just different for you after that. It's like you're in a club when you talk to other attorneys. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, just remember that. He's like, I have more education than most of the lawyers running around here do. And this guy worked in D.C. For several government and outside the government offices. He's a real think tank person. Anyway, he said that lawyers, when they talk to each other, it's like they have a secret handshake. It's like you're in a club. And I wouldn't say that's necessarily true all the time, but I do know that I feel more comfortable when I talk to a lawyer than when I talk to a non-lawyer. I feel like I'm going to get the truth out of a lawyer. Isn't that screwed up, right? But hey, man, I'm a good-looking, cute one, and funny, and I don't practice. So anyway, let's see here. I don't remember why I did green, but it's evidently more important than yellow. And this is the Supreme Court again. In our view, specific performance they are hitting on all the key words. These are all terms of art that you learn in law school. That you just, it becomes such a part of you that you don't think about it. And it's like now, like I want to go back through this case and write down like the 5 things heard, like on a specific performance. It's such a important part of it, and you just don't think about it because you're just so overwhelmed with hearing it every day. I apologize. It's just a little flashback I was having, a little PTSD there. PTLSD. Post-traumatic law school disorder. All right, in our view, specific performance of D.A. Castor's decision in the form of barring Cosby's prosecution for the incident involving Constant, that's the victim, this is the original DA, is the only remedy. Yeah, barring Cosby's prosecution is the only remedy that comports with society's reasonable expectations of its elected prosecutors and our criminal justice system. Now, see, they're talking about society's reasonable expectations. They're talking about you, the taxpayer, who you make up the government. Remember that. It bears repeating that D.A. Castor intended his charging decision to induce the waiver of Cosby's fundamental constitutional right. I mean, I have a problem with that. Can you waive a constitutional right, really? Which is why the prosecutor rendered his decision in a very public manner. Cosby reasonably relied to his detriment upon that decade-old decision when he declined to attempt to avail himself to his privilege against compulsory self-incrimination, and when he provided Constant civil attorneys with inculpatory statements. Under these circumstances, neither our principles of justice, nor society's expectations, nor our sense of fair play and decency can tolerate anything short of compelling the Montgomery County DA's office to stand by the decision of its former elected head. Boom! That is a powerful, powerful, powerful statement there. Under these circumstances, then the comma. I love the comma. I one time spent 45 minutes. I billed out 45 minutes for the definition of may. M-A-Y, a 3-letter word. Oh, it was glorious. It was a glorious letter I wrote. Anyway. I lost it, but yeah, this comma is right there with it. I love commas. Neither our principles of justice. Now you're getting into, you got the first part is, these are the circumstances. Then we're talking about our principles of justice. You don't have to define what our principles of justice are. You know it. It is in you. You feel it inside you. It is our principles of justice. Nor society's expectations. That is the people that aren't thinking about this. That's the people that are just never even heard this case was going on. They are in society. They do not expect this type of crap to be happening to people in this country. Nor our sense of fair play and decency. Fair play. What is fair? Fair is something that is to you. But decency, man. Decency is the key with that. Fair play and decency. And he used the word and, another fabulous word, that those two cannot be separated. Fair play and decency have to be included together. And it is what's just, going back to their words, it is a just principle. Plain Disney, another comma, can tolerate anything short of compelling the Montgomery County. Right here, after compelling, can tolerate. None of these things can tolerate it. Our principles of justice, society's expectations, or the sense of fair play and decency can tolerate. It will not stand anything short of compelling making a county's district attorney. Now, see, in Tennessee, we have judicial districts. So, some counties have their based on the old circuit courts. So, like, some counties have one, some districts have 5 or 6 counties. But I'm assuming here in Pennsylvania they have one county DA. Stand by the decision of its former elected head. And that's something else I said. This is really important here. Former elected head. That may be the biggest part of this. When you figure that they're talking about society's expectations and former elected head. If you say something, well, this is what the last guy said. The new guy says, I'm not him, and we're going to prosecute. We'll legally have the right to because it's within the statute of limitations. We're going to do it. Former guy said, but I said I would never do it. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania says you have to stand by because it's it's fair play and decency. Our society expects you to because it's a former elected head of a state-sanctioned office. Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's a great line. Let's see here. Under these circumstances, where our equitable objective in remedying a due process violation is to restore an aggrieved party the status he held prior to that violation. All right, this is how do you make Bill Cosby whole again? Status he held prior to that violation, exclusion of the deposition testimony from a third criminal trial, and nothing more falls short of what our law demands. So see what happened here was there was the overall decision was to let him go, but then you had some concurring with their own opinion, some dissenting with their own opinion, and like the concurring with opinions was they were asking for a new trial and take out the old evidence, and that screwed up. Though this appeal emanates from Cosby's criminal convictions, we cannot ignore the true breadth of the due process violation. The deprivation includes the fact that the DA Castor's actions handicapped Cosby in the derivative civil suit. Nor can we ignore the fact that weakening Cosby's position in that civil case was precisely why DA Castor proceeded as he did. Weakening Cosby's position. They're saying this Supreme Court of Pennsylvania is saying that the district attorney, Bruce Castor, went after Cosby. Suppression of evidence in a third criminal trial can never restore Cosby to the position he held before he forfeited his Fifth Amendment rights. That right there is that. Why is that not highlighted? I'm going to highlight that now. I don't even know what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to delete all this, you know? Let's see here. This is great. There's actions, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, you can't go back. Oh, wait, hold on. I did that the wrong way, didn't I? Suppression of evidence. Your Fifth Amendment rights. So it's like, you've already paid her $3.3 million. You're not getting that back. Okay? You're not going to be made whole. Here, like, this is horrible. So if you have a third trial, you're still not making him whole. He's been in jail for all this time. Now what are you going to do? I mean, you're creating a circus. You really are. You're making the judicial system, and there are some people that want to do that, into a complete circus. It was not only the deposition testimony that harmed Cosby as a particular matter. The moment that Cosby was charged criminally, he was harmed. That's true. Think about that. What does the media in this country love to do? They love to show hands and handcuffs, don't they? And then they love to show those mugshots, don't they? As soon as that happens, you're screwed. You're harmed. If you've ever had a mugshot taken, best thing to do is get a copy of it. Put it on your refrigerator, man. Just own up to that stuff. Be like, hey, isn't that funny? I mean, whatever it is, I would, because you try to hide it and ignore it and stuff like that. So, and sooner or later, someone's going to find out and they're going to show it. And when they do, you're like, oh, man, yeah, like, I mean, what do? You're like, yeah, I've hid that from everybody. Oh, geez, you look bad. You're like, no, man, like, yeah, this is what happened. This is my, yeah, but you don't have to put the mugshot on your refrigerator, but it's like, yeah, you look me up. You know, if somebody said something about it, you'd be like, what do I care? Look, everybody has had a bad day, okay? Sometimes you can be the best person in the world and just get caught on your worst day, which is probably still better than my best day. I mean, just because, stuff happens. It just happens to good people, and it's not always right. Stating that the Deicaster's inducement, starting with his inducement, Cosby gave up a fundamental constitutional right, was compelled to participate in a civil case after losing that right, testified against his own interest, weakened his position there, and ultimately settled the case for a large sum of money. Was tried twice in criminal court, was convicted, and has served several years in prison. All of this started with Castor's compulsion of Cosby's reliance upon a public proclamation that Cosby would not be prosecuted. Castor went public and said, "You will not be prosecuted." Everybody, society then even knows, hey man, you said this. They just went down that list. I mean, look at that. I didn't know he was tried twice for this. He got convicted. Oh man, that's horrible. But yeah, this is one. I about cringed when I was reading this to y'all. Was compelled to participate. Ugh. The CDO is concurring. Dissenting opinion. God, I couldn't get those words out. Concurring dissenting opinion. A remedy for all this would include subjecting Cosby to a third criminal trial. This is no remedy at all. Rather, it is an approach that would place Cosby nowhere near where he was before the due process violation took root. That's the key here. And this is like a timeline that I'm reading to you. Look at the court is saying, when did the due process violation take root? Put that as a period right there. Wherever we find where due process was first destroyed, first ignored, first abused, it stops. And let me tell you, if he raped Andrea Constead, sexually assaulted, I don't know what it means. I don't know what this means. I haven't looked at Pennsylvania laws. I don't know what he got convicted of. I just know it was, sexual in nature. If Bill Cosby did do something, and then the state came in, who are the highest paid, smartest legal minds around the area you can get, and they screwed up, they abused his due process rights. I was looking for a better word than abuse, but if they came in and they ignored, abused, misaligned, whatever, his due process rights, his rights trump everything else. And you say, well, how can you say that? You're saying that he got, there's a video of him like doing whatever over here with this chick, and you're like, but Bill Cosby's due process rights are my due process rights. They're your due process rights. They're everybody's due process rights. And we cannot live in a country that ignores that fact. The greatest thing that's ever happened for the individual is the right of due process. It's an idea. There's a judge, I remember this from law school, a professor I had said that there's a book written by some judge that or maybe some judge has said he could write a book on due process, be 500 pages, and he still wouldn't be able to explain what due process is. It's very complicated. It's a case by case basis. It's not a blanketed idea. It's not something it is something that the court system is built for, where a man gets to go up and face his accusers and say, that's not what happened. I went to Independence Hall years ago, and this is appropriate. Here it is, July 2nd. Independence Hall. And I'm one of those guys that I talk to the people, right? I talk to the people showing the place, the park rangers. And I got out of the time loop of when there was a tour, you know? I just walk in and I start talking to the park ranger. And I said, what do I need to know? Like, what do you know about this place that nobody else does? And he just kind of gets a smile. And he goes, well, I'll tell you the first thing that I really think is cool. And you look over, and there's a courtroom set up in Independence Hall. And the British court system, the defendant had to stand in front of the court in it's like a podium, and it looked about like a bird cage that had been cut in half. You had to stand there. And this is the way he charged. It's like, in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, in July it gets hot. In August it gets hot. Imagine you're up here in trial. There's no air conditioning. The windows are closed for the most part. You're wearing a wig. You're wearing wool clothes. And you're standing up there for 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours, whatever it was back then. Or however that case went. That trial went. And it's like, and all your jurors, your jurors or your jury, your peers, they're looking at you. And you're sweating. And you're starting to look tired. And your wig's starting to fall off because you got so much sweat. All you can think about is like, God, you just want some water. And you can't move. You can't leave. There's no bathroom breaks. You're accused of doing something. You've heard people say, well, they wouldn't have gotten arrested. They weren't doing something wrong. You weren't doing anything wrong. You're innocent. Anyway, due process is an amazing thing that needs to be taken care of. And that courtroom, that park ranger said that was one of the main things that these guys, our founders, they just found atrocious. Especially because they're like sitting there going, we're answering to the king, who, in King George was, he may have been a victim of inbreeding. Supposedly he liked to ride out into the country, and he'd have his, what do they call it, a chariot or whatever, carriage, stop. He'd tell his driver to stop. He would get out of the carriage and proceed to talk policy with trees. Crazy, huh? Anyway, so you got King George over here across the Atlantic Ocean. He's telling you what to do, and you're standing up there in that little hot, round, wrought iron bird cage looking thing. And that's an enlightened man knows that's not right. That was it was completely asinine. And our Declaration of Independence was because of the whole Enlightenment, where people started questioning this stuff. Anyway, Bill Cosby is free because we have those protections. Let me finish this up here. There was, I think I circled this because I liked it more than anything. It might thwart the public interest in having the guilty brought to book. No, never mind. Don't pay attention to that part. It cannot be gains that the society holds a strong interest in the prosecution of crimes. It is also true that there is no such interest, however important, ever can eclipse a society's interest in ensuring that the constitutional rights of the people are vindicated. Society's interest in prosecution does not display the remedy due to constitutionally aggrieved persons. That's what I was saying. That's exactly what I was saying. I forgot. I read that right before I hit record, and I circled it. And I don't remember. I don't remember reading it like that. I mean, especially the way I just said it. I went. I didn't get influence from this. I don't think, unless it was some subconscious. I was able to translate it into my own stupidness, my language of stupidness. But think about that. Read that again. It is true that no such interest, however important, can ever eclipse society's interest in ensuring that the constitutional rights of the people are vindicated. Vindicated. Society's interest in prosecution does not displace the remedy due to constitutionally aggrieved persons. I love that. I love that. Translate that into Latin and make a tattoo. Conclusion. See here, this was the. Oh yeah, this is what I love. So I'm like reading through the conclusion. It goes, for these reasons, Cosby's convictions and judgment of sentence are vacated, and he is discharged. Hit the gavel. He walks out wearing flip flops and board shorts. Hang loose, y'all. Listen, I appreciate this. I hope I was able to make it entertaining for you. Knows that it was Bill Cosby was released because the first DA set him up. I mean, bad juju, you know? That's not, you don't do this stuff. So anyway, love y'all. It's 4th of July weekend. This is great. This is awesome. This is sexy. We've got to love each other. All right? We've got to be good to each other. Y'all have got to like and subscribe to my channel. Please, I'm in a competition. I have to get the subs. Please. Hey, listen, real quick. I looked up who this Andrea Constant is. I'm like, what's Bill Cosby's taste in women like? If you want to stop the video right now, please like and subscribe. Know that I love you. May the force be with you. Have a happy 4th of July. If you want to see what she looks like, then stay on. I'll get you to the count of 3 to stop. 1, 2. This is Andrea Constant. She looks like that comedian. I don't know who he is, but she looks like that guy. And like a little Sigourney Weaver-ish. But like this is her now. And this is what she's always looked like. This isn't an operation type thing. She's a 6-foot Canadian WNBA. Yeah, see, there she is. Oh, look, masculine. Oh my gosh. She's a lesbian. 3 times she had stuff with Bill Cosby. She just loves pudding pops. I don't know. She's Canadian, so who knows, right? Alright. Anyway, peace, love, all the good stuff. Be good to each other. And until next time, adios. Oh, wait. Oh, it's 4th of July. I need to speak English. Godspeed. Good luck.